today. What's your preparation from Hammers? What are you expecting to come in wanting to ban and wanting to pick?
Honestly, your best preparation is to take away that Churn Walker if you haven't practiced against it enough. If you don't know what to play against it, it's your best bet to try and remove it. I've done many draft mistakes in the past where I did not respect a new pick enough and allowed it to go through for a team that has practiced it and have paid the price. Hammers needs to not do that again. At the same time though, there just are so many different strong picks like the Ryan coming through that they have to take away and not give to Vainglory8, otherwise he would just roll over status.
The Lyra going to be locked on in here for Hammers, which means there's absolutely no chance that they're going to be going for a Churn Walker of their own, and we'll see whether they do opt to ban away the new captain on this second round of bans.
Yeah, like I said, I'm fully expecting a Churn Walker ban. This is exactly what they did against Nova in the draft, and that was a team that hadn't played the Churn Walker yet, so it just makes so much sense that they would just repeat the same thing. Now Team Solo Mid is going to have to show us something else. They're going to have to show us something different in this draft. They banned the Kestrel away from starting all over, so a little bit of a respect ban there towards him. And now, let's see where they decide to go. I would expect to see, maybe go for one of those early junglers, but there's also the high probability that they end up saving that jungle pick to be a counter because they don't know where that Blackfeather is going to go yet.
I wouldn't be surprised if Vox came out too, also for starting all over. A very strong pick in general, works really good against the Blackfeather. Obviously, at the same time, you can't predict where the Blackfeather will go because it can still be flexed into the jungle. Vox does come out.
And well, Alpha picked up pretty quickly by Team Solo Mid, so I feel like, that composition, just swap out the captain and they can still win.
We've seen
Lance
these two together.
Is still open.
Grace even is still open. That could be a perfect way to round this one out. We've seen what Blackfeather and Alpha as a duo can do when you're trying to escape them. I mean, Vox, yes, you've got a couple of dashes, but against two bruisers that want to melt your face, you're just not going to have a good time.
And FlashX is going to grab himself that Arden, but again, I like the fact that Hammers went for the Vox as their second pick because it allowed them to wait and see where this Blackfeather is going to be going. Now they know it's an Alpha in the jungle, and it won't be that Blackfeather that's in the jungle. You would pick very differently depending on which of those two you are going to be up against. I feel like Hammers may look towards something like the Koshka for status. It's one of his best heroes, and it can go toe-to-toe with the Alpha in the early game. But it's going to be something that you have to be cautious of because of the amount of mobility, but it's an Ozo instead for status.
This is not something I was 100% expecting to see come on through. This is what Nova played yesterday, though, maybe taking a leaf out of their previous opponent's book. I'm curious about this pick. I mean, what's the logic on going for this Ozo here? Is this good into Alpha specifically?
I mean, it does play a little bit well into the Alpha as far as the matchup. However, you don't have a squishy hero that you can just jump on and try to burst with the Ozo. He's going to have a lot of sustain, especially with Lyra, but it's going to be pretty hard to execute, especially since Lyra's heals are not target. They're a skill shot.
Yeah, between the healing of Ozo's 3-Ring Circus and the increased healing from his perk and the fortified health from the Acro Bounce, this Ozo is going to be extremely durable. That's the reason why they wanted this pick. So it has that big, beefy, durable frontliner for them to try and soak up a lot of the damage that's going to come out from this Alpha and Blackfeather.
All right, so the big question then is, can Ozo hold his own in this early game against this Alpha? Who's going to win out that jungle skirmish?
I don't think anyone is going to play aggressive. If anything, Ozo will be playing aggressive, but Alpha will just become a lot stronger in teamfights if she's able to survive a little bit.
All right, well, it's just about time that we find out for ourselves and look towards our final. Hashtag Vainglory8 on Twitter. Let us know whether you think Hollywood Hammers can take this or if Team Solo Mid have got this in the bag. It's time to pass it over to our casters for our final. It's Dowsy and the Source.
Oh, Source. This reminds me of the good old days back 8 months ago when I started casting Vainglory. It was old Classico. Hollywood Hammers up against TSM back here in the finals of Week 1 of Split 2. And we got some monkey business on the Halcyon Fold as well.
Yeah, I'd like the compositions from both teams. The Churn Walker ban, very warranted. I would not have let it through. It's, TSM has shown how dangerous that can be. And now we're back to what looks like a little bit more of a standard composition. FlashX knows how to play the Arden. Arden's been around basically forever. So now it comes down to the counterpoint of, Vainglory8 on the Alpha versus status on this Ozo. And I haven't seen a lot of Ozo. We got that one game the other day. Ozo showed some very scary amounts of damage, especially, just one more hero who can make value of the new Aftershock.
I like that you say FlashX knows how to play the Arden. They say that under that mech suit, FlashX is actually Arden. Currently, TSM looking for an engaged. Chicken's health bar disappearing, but Vonsi has to be a little bit careful. Looking for starting all over. A status going to be focused now by Best Chuck and A. It is a race for first blood as Hollywood Hammers losing their lives. That's going to be 1. That's going to be 2. There's only Chicken left alive, and he is going to be able to sustain with that sigil. But TSM going to take first blood and a little extra.
I feel like this Black Feather is it shows how well TSM can adapt between multiple strategies. Vonsi can play it, Best Chuck can play it, but it's just been so devastatingly powerful for them. And you know, that was a good team fight. They managed to
Sorry, I just want to point out that FlashX was desperately relying on that Elder Treant so he could head back up to lane, and FlashX accidentally just sniped it away with a blood for blood. So it was just funny. I'm sorry. Continue, Sauce.
I mean, I feel like that's incredibly relevant because FlashX has just determined that all the gold in the farm belongs to him, and he's the true carry for this team.
Well, no one ever disagreed that FlashX was actually carrying Mr. Best Chuck NA through all of these games, and you know, we'll continue to see he got himself in that captain position. Vonsi diving on in. It's Chicken caught on up, focusing on starting all over, but Chicken an easy target for Vonsi to turn to. Now Status going to be bouncing around, just having a bit of fun here as starting all over gets pointed on out. Oh, Vonsi, no fear, just fight. Oh, never mind, just fear. He's under the turret going very low. He's going to get popped into his passive. I think Status will just back away now. Has he overextended is the question? Seems like he's okay for now. Hammer's playing a little bit precariously at the moment.
Status showing that he's willing to punish Vonsi for some super aggressive dives, but at the moment, there isn't a lot that Hollywood Hammers can do to really combat that back. And I'd like what they did when they went for that initial set of kills. They put pressure on the starting all over so that, you know, the two teams decided that they needed to split up. Two players decided that they needed to split up and then instantly recollapse onto Chicken. And you know, despite not having any range, inside of TSM, they're very comfortable in how far they can push their engagements. And with what it's decent wave clear coming up from starting all over, I feel like TSM just hasn't been under any pressure in this lane.
Currently, it is Vonsi looking for that Elder Treant, but it goes over to Chicken. Now Status going to be chasing down. Doesn't want to commit too deeply into this fight. It is just going to be the rest of everyone heading on back to the base. Is 1,000 gold already accumulated by the side of TSM. Serpent's Mask picked up very early for Best Chuck NA.
Yeah, and pretty much all of that gold advantage is coming out of the jungle. The farm is relatively even in the lane. Farm is relatively even in terms of CS between the junglers, but just the amount of gold that came out from kills, and then a couple of nice steals that Vonsi has gotten on a few of those jungle camps is kind of racking that up. And major item wise, Best Chuck he has the Serpent's Mask, FlashX has the Fountain. Vonsi has gone for a little bit more damage than going for the Aftershock, so wants sort of that initial burst, whereas Status is going straight into the Aftershock, so maybe that comes back to bite them if Vonsi can pick up Aftershock before they reach their next engagement.
Currently, Hammers all grouped up. They really want to make Status's ultimate power spike, something worthwhile here. That background can be very impactful. It is going to be an engage though. Onto starting all over. There's the acro bounce going on over. Where Status looking for who's he going to chuck up in the air is the question, or is he just going to have to be forced back under his turret? Oh, he's just dead. Okay, a lot of questions asked. The answer is nada, as that is one kill going over to Team Solo Mid once more. An Aftershock picked up for Ozo. Vonsi going to be able to pick up his own. In fact, I don't think he's going to go for it. I think he's going to Dragon's Eye first item, which would be something a little bit different for this alpha. Let's see what he goes. Does he go anything? Maybe he's going to... he doesn't have gold. He doesn't have gold for it, so that was some good anticlimactic hype right there.
Yeah. So that last engagement for Status, it looked, good. They were getting damage in there, but then they're, instant turn from TSM. Moment Acro Bounce is done, moment 3-ring circus is over, instantly turn on the status and put through the damage. And because Bestchuck has that Serpent's Mask, he was able to heal himself back up. The on-point damage is starting to come through. He's working on that breaking point. Status has to be careful. He held the ultimate. They honestly need to be opening up their fights with the ultimate. I don't really think that they should be waiting and using it mid-team fight, because at that point, you've already kind of given TSM the opportunity to dish damage back and to, you know, absorb all of the combos that come out from status, because starting all over's damage isn't really there yet. He has the poison shift, but no breaking point, so they really need to burst down an individual target. I don't really feel as if their sustained team fight is that great up against Vainglory and Bestchuck NA.
All right. Something worth noting, in fact, we won't talk about it just yet, as Status is looking for a turret dive. Vainglory actually does itemize for that aftershock, now trying to dive on in. Bright bulwark prevents it for now, but a gauntlet's going to go down, and Status going to be trapped on inside. Silence onto Vainglory, Fountain comes out, stunning all over, struggling to escape Bestchuck NA, and it is going to be everyone from TSM walking backwards. Vainglory wanted to dive on in, misses his prime directive, and there's Status finding the kill onto that Black Feather. Maybe this is relevant now. There's no poison shiv coming out for Bestchuck NA. Ozo, so able to sustain with healing his passives, as he may just lose his life, but a great sigil keeps him alive, and actually now Vainglory in trouble. Holy moly, Status 1v1, Vainglory sustaining it back up, but Chicken's here, and that will pretty much stop the fight. This no poison shiv is an issue, I think, for TSM, something they've probably underestimated.
Yeah, and I think after that fight and that last engagement, maybe they consider making the item change. Maybe Bestchuck NA drops the armor, because right now starting all over I don't think is that much of an issue, and getting that poison shiv is how they're going to shut down status, or they have to burst them. It is possible
the issue
for
is,
them
though,
to do it.
2.9.1 Vampirism, which is lifesteal, got changed. You can no longer stack 2 Vampirism items. The one that has the highest lifesteal will take effect. If you build Poison Ship, you're building it just for the mortal wounds alone. Ooh, starting all over does go very low. Is going to be forced to heal up under his turret. If he gets the chance to, he doesn't. Vainglory bursts him down. Bangarang completely blocked up by Crucible. Great stuff from Flash X, and now Status is in a bit of trouble. They have to burst him down. He's healing so much, but it is going to be TSM taking him out. TSM, without starting all over to deal with, were able to manage that Ozo fairly effectively. The Fountain was used fairly early in an attempt to save starting. It didn't work, but it is something to keep in mind. The Poison Shiv, if built, will be a fairly ineffective item as far as damage and vampirism is concerned. Basically not building it for the lifesteal, you're building it for the mortal wounds effect.
Yeah, which means CSM has to solidly make these burst combos happen. They made it happen in that last one. Granted, Bestchuck had already built up plenty of breaking point stacks, so maybe that's where they're going to find their overwhelming damage to deal with status. Also possible, if you just take starting all over out of the fight very early, you can slowly manage what status has to bring to the table. If it's an even team fight, it's a little bit more dangerous. They managed to do that right there. They caught out starting all over while status wasn't around, and that really set them up for success. Now, it is going to be dangerous until, actually, you're right, Vainglory is gone for the Dragon's Eye, so I take back what I was about to say, which was it's going to be dangerous if they don't have enough burst. I think Vainglory just found it.
Yeah, no, certainly does, and may need to get a broken myth to pierce through the shielding that's being built up. That is a great bulwark. Here comes that acro bounce. Gauntlet Wars placed down, and Vainglory popped into his reboot. He goes out of the fight. Bestchuck trying to find some damage, trying to till, stunning all over. He gets it. Bangarang blocked on up. Bestchuck going to lose his life to status, and now it's only Flash X left alive, and he's going to be dove upon by a monkey in just a second, it seems. Doesn't seem like Chicken wants to facilitate that. I guess one thing you can do to your Ozo is not allow him to acro bounce on your head so he doesn't turret dive, and Chicken kind of controlling status a little bit.
I mean, you gotta rein in your team sometimes when you're the captain. They are constantly diving, and your job is to keep them alive. But great play from Chicken to get down the Bright Bulwark. Good timing. I think at that point maybe TSM consider backing off, but they push their luck, and Hollywood Hammers get the counter punch back, just cutting down Vainglory's ability to really do anything. He built up no stacks. He didn't get off the termination protocol. He's pretty much shut down from the start of that fight. And although Bestchuck NA found the kill into starting all over, which is really a testament to how strong this weapon power Black Feather is, as well as how well Bestchuck is playing, wasn't really enough, and so TSM their pace has been tempered. They have to consider finding better angles, and maybe they can't necessarily hard force the engage if Vainglory does not get off that initial engagement.
Status now has a Dragon's Eye of himself, so the stacking game going to be strong for both Status, Vainglory, and Best and A, who has that breaking point. I wonder if Starting All Over will go forwards a breaking point of his own. Bright Bulwark prevents Vainglory's engagement. Here comes the Acro Bounce, here comes Starting. Silence goes out, Best able to avoid it. Starting All Over now in a bit of trouble as he's going to be focused down. Bangarang blocked on up, Starting All Over trying to escape the damage coming out of TSM, but have managed to take down Best. Vainglory going to follow the portal, misses the Prime Directive, and he will be taken out where he sits. Oh no, gets portal back, that's going to keep him alive. That's an interesting interaction. He may just die nonetheless as he's trying his best, but his best wasn't enough. It's only Flash X left alive, the Ozo free to dance. An ace for Hollywood Hammers.
They find another great team fight off of the back of Chicken getting off the right Bright Bulwark. It stops the initial engagement from Vainglory, and it gives Hollywood Hammers the time to set up and surround the members of Team Solo Mid. So, 2 team fights in a row, Team Solo Mid have been bopped on the nose when they decide they're gonna stick that forward. I don't know where that analogy was going. There's some kind of like combination of sharks being hit on the nose and some kind of dogs being hit on the nose, but they will secure themselves a gold miner. Dear God, my entire voice is falling apart. They'll secure the gold miner, get themselves a little bit deeper into those item builds. I feel like Starting All Over is going for that breaking point, as you mentioned, and Status, he's got that Atlas Pauldron. He can kind of start to put significant pressure onto Best Chuck and A, and here's the engagement.
Another engagement is coming out. Best Chuck trying his best to get Starting All Over out of the fight, but look at that, Best Chuck's deleted. It just doesn't even matter at this point. Vainglory diving onto Starting All Over. Can he find the kill? Prime Directive blocked on up by Status, and that's a dead Alpha. Gonna reboot? Maybe she can find a kill. Nope, she can't. Taken on out. This Ozo's just providing such a threat that Flash X is going to feel the full brunt force of. I wouldn't be surprised if Best Chuck and A, after he finishes his Bone Saw, sells Serpent's Mask and picks up a Poison Ship. It just feels like if he doesn't have that Mortal Wounds, there's no killing Starting All Over, there's no killing Status.
Yeah, and Vainglory isn't able to build up his stacks over the course of these team fights with the Dragon's Eye. Yes, Dragon's Eye, doesn't give you that much initial straight damage, but if he had full stacks, we've seen how much damage this Alpha can do. We've seen how low Starting All Over gets, but every time they're able to just push Vainglory off of actually being able to keep those Dragon's Eye stacks up. They keep falling off because Chicken's getting off really great Bright Bulwarks, because of how much pressure Status is putting and kind of drawing Vainglory's attention away. And so now, Best Chuck and A, looks like he's going for attention bow. He needs a little bit more of that initial damage to be able to possibly finish off Starting All Over, because Starting All Over is now getting the ability to do what Voxes do. He's kiting around the sides of the fight. He's able to dish out consistent damage. Status is drawing all of the attention of the members of Team Solo Mid, and they've lost 3 back-to-back team fights. They haven't fully fallen apart, but they're definitely have lost the momentum.
Yeah, right now it is difficult times indeed, due to the fact that there is no mortal wounds to prevent the healing that Status is getting from Chicken, getting from himself, the Aftershock, his three-ring circus. There's just no need for Eve. Aftershock is doing the work for him. Right now, Hammers, it's allowed him to itemize towards his Dragon's Eye, which is just providing so much threat in the team fights. Another gauntlet gets placed. Hammers very happy to fight on in it. Great Bright Bulwark just prevents Vainglory from doing damage, but Starting All Over, maybe this is the time he goes down. Surely he goes down. He does. Vainglory will find the kill. Now they turn on to Status. They have to burst down this monkey before he takes them all on out. Chicken will escape for now. Best Chuck losing his life, but Vainglory finds the double kill. It's a 1 versus 3 as Status dives around, and he finds one in the 1 versus 3, looking for more. Here comes the Acro Bounce, jumps on top of Flash X, a double kill, Bangarang, Status looking for the 1 versus 3, can he find it? Vainglory trying to find the damage as the Kraken gets involved, Vainglory, Status, who will win the fight? Status goes in, and he gets the ace! What a monster this Ozo is!
What an amazing series of plays by Status. I don't I don't know how you survive that, because TSM, they took so much damage over the course of that fight. It looked so bad for them, but they were able to juggle aggro continuously. They put so much pressure onto starting all over. They take him out of the fight, and then Status just decides, no, I can 1v3. He finishes off the entire rest of the team of Team Solo Mid, and now the Kraken goes over to Hollywood Hammers. This is a team that came to play, and they are here to dash the dreams of Team Solo Mid, to steal away those precious points towards the World Championship.
I just feel sad that the answer to this is a single item. It honestly is for TSM. Without that Mortal Wounds, they're just so lackluster in stopping Status and starting from healing via chicken sigils time and time again. What a terrible error coming out of TSM in this first game. One, I'm sure they won't make again, but oh my goodness, Hammers are looking wholly good right now. They're going to be pushing on into the choke point turret with this Kraken. I'm sure they're making Humanist proud as this Ozo gets wound up, ready for another team fight. Gauntlet gets prepped. Great Gauntlet stuns Status. Starting all over, able to escape, going to back away. Here comes the second. Bangarang gets blocked on up. Starting all over, going through the portal. It's going to be Status bouncing around the fight. Starting all over, struggling to escape. Starting all over. He's managing to escape, but does get taken down eventually. Status now trying to bounce around, looking for the kills, looking for the heals. He is going to go very low. This time they take down the monkey. The choke point turret taken, but TSM going to stop the Kraken in its tracks.
Finally, TSM are able to find that team fight, but it was close. Starting all over survived a huge amount of time. Chicken got down again, another well-timed right bulwark to cut Vonsi's ability to really get in there, but all of the members were very much stacked up from the side of Hollywood Hammers. They got massive AoE value between Best Chuck and Vonsi. Vonsi had that, well, I assume he had massive Dragon's Eye stacks. We're not entirely sure about that, but Best Chuck NA had good breaking point stacks, and it was just the perfect amount of team fight, and they got off a good termination protocol. That's been very difficult for Vonsi. There's been a huge ability from the side of Hollywood Hammers to either dodge that out or reposition Vonsi into a place where it gets minimal effectiveness.
What? I just can't believe it. I'm still awestruck from the 1v3 from Status. My play-by-play caster mind is blown at the amazing plays that we have experienced so far. Bonesaw has been completed for Best Chuck. He is full build apart from boots. At this point, Status still lacking that broken myth. Going to be trying to work towards it, but those infusions are expensive. Hollywood Hammers are just 2 turrets away from taking down TSM here in week 1 of Split 2. Game 1 as well. So a whole series. That is the beautiful thing about this source. We still have 2 more games to come potentially.
Yeah, and we'll see where this Ozo fits into some of those later drafts. Whether or not this is actually a serious, a serious consideration for TSM to maybe ban the Ozo away. Maybe they pick it. It's shown that there is potential for, Hollywood Hammers to really come at TSM with drafts they're not prepared for.
And we wait for it going out. Bangarang coming out, blocked up by Flash X. Gauntlet gets placed, it's Chicken stunned up. Starting all over, trying to escape the fight, goes into the portal, gets stunned immediately. Best Chuck going to be following up. Hollywood Hammers stuck behind, trying to keep stunning alive, but they cannot. Status now has to bounce to win if he wants to keep this fight going, but never mind, TSM just too good. That Bonesaw making such a big difference, and it's a triple kill for Vonsi. He smashes Status's status, and now it is going to be the Kraken started up by TSM.
Yeah, cutting through all the armor of those Atlas Pauldrons. Best Chuck NA really did a great job in the middle of that team fight to just continuously chase starting all over around the fight. He didn't have a lot of time to do significant amounts of damage, and at this point, TSM, they've finally found their way back into the game, and we'll be able to pick up this Kraken very quickly.
Oh, you know what? I looked away for half a second and saw that the health bar was red. I was like, how did they manage to steal that, Hollywood Hammers? Wow, I do apologize. It is starting to get late here in Europe. TSM, Kraken unleashed. Bonesaw, apparently enough to deal with an Ozo as Best Chuck just becomes a stacking machine, both Bonesaw stacks and breaking point to deal with. And if starting all over can't escape the wrath of Best Chuck and Vonsi, then you have to feel this is the end of the line for Hollywood Hammers. TSM, never say die, never say surrender. And they are now looking to push on into the base. Kraken starting up the choke point. Vonsi diving onto the turret. The choke point is dead. TSM have lost a lot of HP, but the gauntlet has been issued. 2 gauntlets echoed on up. Everyone's trapped on inside, apart from Starting, who's starting to get stunned up. He's surviving. The important thing, and look at the damage being dealt by Hammers. Here comes the Bangerang onto Flash X, blocked on up. Starting all over, struggling to survive. Vonsi dives in and finds the kill. Termination Protocol onto Status, going to do a lot of damage. They've taken down the Ozo, and TSM, with only a chicken left between them, should be able to secure this game. Vonsi just being a little bit BM towards the end, but hey, at this point, TSM must feel relieved that they managed to weather the storm and take down Hollywood Hammers in Game 1.
I love that double gauntlet positioning because what it did, it stopped Starting All Over from being able to go anywhere, but it kept the other 2 members of Hollywood Hammers pretty much together. Vonsi's building stacks, Best Chuck's building stacks, despite them being low, those stacks hadn't actually fallen off by the time that Hollywood Hammers feel confident that they can re-engage, and the side of TSM just turn on them and instantly burst through Starting All Over. A great play from TSM to weather the storm.
Incredible start to our split 2 first finals series. TSM up 1-0 against Hollywood Hammers. I'm eager to hear what our analysts thought of that matchup.
Well, Vonsi certainly had a fun game for himself. 11-4-5 on the CP Alpha. TSM do manage to take the first game in this series, but it was not an easy task for them. Hammers really gave them a run for their money, and that's what I like to see in finals like this. This could have been, on paper, an easy TSM win, but Hammers not letting it get away.
Yeah, absolutely not going down without a fight this one. How about Status with the 1v3 play making halfway through this game? Absolutely incredible stuff coming out of Hammers. Great resiliency, but in the end, once that bone saw came out on the side of Team Solo Mid, that was when they were able to deal with this Ozo and actually take him down.
The bone saw was the huge thing that turned the team fights around and made them a lot cleaner for TSM. Because before that, the armor wasn't being shredded, and Ozo was being able to just survive long enough to continue being able to sustain and being able to heal from the aftershock, from his kit on its own. So once the bone saw was completed, however, Blackfeather was just able to clean up for most team fights.
Absolutely. Let's get on into our clips because there's a few from this game. This was action-packed. Let's take a look. We have 11 and 13 minutes. Back-to-back aces going on in this game.
Yeah, and at this point, it looked like Team Solo Mid were going to be able to just run away with this game. But like I said, Hammers were not willing to go down without a fight. Starting all over, somehow just having this incredible durability to be able to stay alive, even on a Vox. Like, that's not a hero you usually associate with being able to survive for days inside of a team fight. And Hammers just able to grab this one. This is when the momentum started to swing back in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, these team fights and these teams were able to go, were going so evenly throughout the entirety of the game. For the majority part, you can see team fight after another. Multiple players go down on both sides, and it's really low health even if they don't. So it's really close team fights coming through, and at the end, it just mattered who was able to get more advantages when they won a team fight, who was able to get a slight gold lead here and there, more gold lead to get more items. And besides that, I mean, we talked about how TSM's composition does outscale, so going even for such a long period definitely favors TSM.
Now, in a lot of these fights, the Ozo doing its AoE damage was really a significant impact. And one of the fights specifically was an even larger impact as we saw Status coming on in and grabbing himself a 1 versus 3 during a Kraken fight.
Yeah, again, we were all on board the Hammers hype train at this point. They just won a couple of fights, but then all of a sudden Team Solo Mid takes this team fight and you think, okay, that's them getting control of this game once again. But then Status says, I have other plans here. It's just absolutely beautiful to watch this play happen.
Certainly was. Just looking at him bouncing around this fight. And everybody is solo, everybody's stacked up, so you're just able to do so much on that Ozo. Status, well aware of the situation, able to capitalize.
That's also the biggest difference, is that because they were stacked, each Acrobans was able to do damage to every single player on the side of TSM. I mean, Lyra distracted them long enough, even though it was a 1v3 at the end that he cleaned up. Lyra was able to distract them long enough so that he is able to deal the damage and clean up.
Yeah, and then off the back of that, we saw Hammers pushing on in alongside their Kraken, and it was TSM trying to hold their own, trying to defend against the push.
Yeah, beautiful gauntlet to start this off, keeps the team at bay, and then the second one as well. Again, just keeping them in place. The portal was already used, so now all of a sudden the portal can't get them out of the gauntlet because it's inside of the gauntlet the whole time. The termination protocol gets popped. They aren't able to take Von C down before he reboots. He's able to just get up and secure that kill to get this game turned once again. I think this game turned back and forth in terms of who had the momentum about 4 or 5 different times in the last 10 minutes.
It really was really even, and the other thing to note is the Atlases coming out from both teams. The double and the trio Atlases, those were making the differences when they were able to land on Vox or Blackfeather. It just made their damage be reduced so greatly.
If it's used effectively, it's such a huge ability during those fights. And let's take a look at one of the final fights of this game. This was TSM managing to regain control. It wasn't a convincing control for them, but they did manage to win this fight.
And this was probably one of my favorite double gauntlets we've seen, putting the second ring on the portal exit, because you know starting all over is going to try and get out with the portal, and instead he just gets stunned once more. It was a beautiful placement from Flash X.
Also, that team fight, a big difference was that Alpha had completed her broken myth while Ozo had not completed her his broken myth, so the piercing was coming through and allowing Alpha to apply her damage more effectively and deal more damage, and so on. The Blackfeather also at that point is so strong later with the bonus that he had picked up also. So just very strong team fighting from TSM.
And then after this massive slugfest of the game, we have one final replay for you guys of TSM finishing things off and managing to take the first game in this series over Hammers. They managed to push things on in towards that Vein Crystal and just end the game out. And it was not an easy one for them. It was a 20-minute battle, but TSM do take it in the end.
It definitely was not easy, but the double echo or the double gauntlet after the echo coming through again in this team fight, and we just see TSM be very smart actually about how they approach this. They don't overchase under the turrets or under the base. Instead, they kite away, force Hammers to engage on them, and that's when they turn around and start killing them, and that's how they close out the game. Many of the teams, when they push with the Kraken, they start over-aggressing and diving under the turrets. You don't have to do that, especially with how strong the Kraken is in 2.9. Go back a little bit, force your opponent to choose between either focusing you or the Kraken, and either way you come out winning.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with how tanky it is now. It is actually very difficult to finish off that Kraken. Even if you win the team fight, often there's just too much HP remaining. But that is going to bring us to the end of game 1, and it's time to start to talk about game number 2 here. Does anything need to change for Hammers? I feel like that was actually a very solid draft for them, even with the Ozo, an off-the-wall pick, but it definitely worked out for them.
Yeah, this was very solid. I like the fact that they targeted that Churnwalker. They have watched Team Solo Mid's games. They figured out the way that they've been drafting when they're just going through the motions and took that off the board. This time they're going to take the Blackfeather away. So again, targeting what Team Solo Mid has been prioritizing and forcing them onto something else, especially because they have that first pick. They have the opportunity to take this Rhyme and get that big power pick. Team Solo Mid going to immediately answer with the Krull. I mean, Petal comes out. I would not be surprised if Hammers do ban away the Churnwalker, even though Team Solo Mid didn't get the Blackfeather.
Very quick draft coming from TSM. You can see one pick after another. They definitely seem to be prepared for the draft. Hammers are thrown at them. The Blackfeather ban, I like it a lot because Best Truck has been performing on it extremely well, and it's just really strong in this update. You can't overlook it because it does too much damage with its execution, especially that game.
Absolutely, Petal going to be banned away on this one, not wanting to allow that through to Hammers, and obviously not wanting to focus on that pick for themselves. With the Catherine ban coming on through, I'm curious on whether or not this Churnwalker could be locked in here for TSM.
It'll be interesting because I was going to say they haven't picked it. Or they've been picking it with that Blackfeather first pick, but it seems like that is not the catalyst for the Churnwalker as they pick it up with a Krull. Now, their last pick is going to have to be something that's AoE, because the thing is, if having AoE with Churnwalker just makes him infinitely more effective than single target, and so the Krull obviously does not offer that AoE damage. Hammer's going to be happy to get this Kestrel Arden. Celeste is that AoE damage that Team Solomid is going to be looking for.
Celeste makes their comp strong enough to fight back. Besides that, I was going to say Rhyme is actually pretty good into Trendwalker because he's very tanky. He can get on top of him, lock him down, and try to finish him, or even get on a backline hero and lock them down and finish them off, where Trendwalker can't help them because he doesn't provide too much healing. But with the Celeste, that's a huge range advantage that you can play with.
And one of the things about the Rhyme into Trendwalker, though, is you can just melt through his fortified health very quickly with that shared damage. That was one of the things we saw yesterday, Team Solomid versus Rogue, when they had that Churnwalker, is they just destroyed the fortified health of this Rhyme, and he wasn't able to be anywhere near as durable as you would normally expect.
Now, I want to point out that with the Krull and the Celeste locked in alongside this Churnwalker, this looks very similar to the composition we were seeing in 2.8 with a Catherine in the place of the Churnwalker. Is this going to be a similar style of play coming out from these guys, or is this a totally different look at it?
I mean, I think it's going to be a fairly similar style because of the Krull being able to play aggressive, trying to get picks by ganking, and the later on Celeste is just a very strong team fighting hero, especially since Krull can protect her. It's just going to be about playing around the Celeste mostly, using the range advantage, and then starting to team fight afterwards.
Yeah, it's also going to be fairly similar just because of the, setting up the fights was usually with a blast tremor, now it's with the hooks.
All right, we'll see if they can land those hooks and get those fights underway. It's time to jump into game number 2 of the final. Hollywood Hammers are 1-0 up. Hashtag, no, they're not. It's Team Solomid's 1-0. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know on Twitter who you're supporting. It's time to get on into this one. It's Dowsy and the Source.
What is the score? What is the source? It's an incredible series here. Hollywood Hammers now looking to come back against TSM here. Look at them. They've got their Churnwalker. They got Flash X on his now signature pick after one weekend. And we're going to have to see exactly how Hollywood Hammers can deal with it after betting in game 1. Looks like a level 1 teamfight may be breaking out. Seems just risky to even consider fighting Flash X when he has those hook and chains, the Fruitility of Life. Looking to hook everything up, has a couple hooks ready to go. TSM backing away from starting all over, but there it is. Hook once more, starting all over now, will be taking more damage. Flash X stacking it up, stacking the hooks. Vonsi finds first blood, but will lose his life. Now Flash X walking everyone back. Status taking shared damage from the Fruitility of Life. They're trying to kill the Churnwalker, trying to stop him from doing all this damage to them, but Flash X is just running for his life. He may go down to Chicken. He does, in fact, go down to Chicken. Can Best Chuck find the return kill is the question. Not quite. Oh dear, didn't go very well for TSM. Status will be able to secure that Treant, and now Best Chuck will be moving in with Vonsi to try and secure the Elder Treant, but I don't even know if they're able to here. Status wants to come for the steal. Oh, okay, just about goes over to TSM.
It was a dangerous proposition for TSM to re-engage after they dropped the 4-chain combo. Flash X had 4 chains, one on every single enemy as well as that Treant, but they decided to back out, and it ends up costing them a little bit. But we see that Hollywood Hammers, they're not afraid of this Churnwalker. They're more than willing to fight. We'll just see whether or not Flash X can make the plays and make them regret that decision.
Currently, just a 2-for-1, making this a fairly bloody affair at the beginning of the game. We'll have to see how Hollywood Hammers can execute off this tiny amount of advantage that they've got via the early game, if you could call it an advantage. TSM with this Celeste once more in lane. Best Chuck bringing it here. One of the only people to actually be successful on Celeste here on 2.9. Once more TSM showing that they are the masters of new meta.
Yeah, I mean, changes over to the item build, no longer having the Frostburn for as much value as it used to give, and then just the variance in builds has kind of made people shy a little bit away from, the Celeste, or at least be unable to gain the same kind of clear success it had before. We see Flash X chasing. He's got 2 hooks onto Status and Chicken, and
is he chasing or is he being chased here is the question.
It's all a bait.
Is baited in. Look at the damage going out onto Chicken as they focus down the Arden, smite it away, and now they can turn to Status here. Best Chuck and A keeping starting all over at bay. Status going to be trying to escape, but a Torment pulls him back on in. Best Chuck lays down the core, collapsing, starting all over, just about walks away. Oh dear, that was almost a kill onto starting all over. TSM not quite able to execute. Flash X, where are you going, pal? Looked like he was trying to find a hook to steal that kill away, and now TSM are in a bit of a trouble. Looks like Vonsi will fall. A double kill goes over to Status. TSM perhaps getting a little bit too cocky.
Nope, starting all over, he's safe. Chicken is there to defend, Best Chuck has to back up. I think there was actually a little bit of misplay from TSM. FlashX had Hook up and chose not to Hook starting all over when he was at super low health and let him get away because he didn't want to steal the kill from Best Chuck NA. So they kind of lose that killed secure. That's the truest form of kill secure. And FlashX decides to, hand that over to his lane carry, and it actually results in them losing him towards the end. FlashX, he's definitely pushing the limits of what he can do with this Churn Walker. He is trying to dual status as much as humanly possible. Is willing to take those fights because, people really aren't familiar with where that break point is in terms of the healing and the damage that comes out from the Churn Walker, sharing damage across the passive. So I don't really blame Vainglory for going that deep. I just think he may need to tone it back a little bit because the last thing he wants is for Status to get very, very far ahead.
Oh man, this is a scary prospect. We've seen Rhymes take over games multiple times. Status here will be looking to do the same. Likely to build it into a Shatter Glass so we can try and burst down Best Chuck on this Celeste. Currently starting all over, laying down some fire onto the turret, gets pulled on into the turret range, does take a turret shot, but the Vanguard tanks it up. He goes back in for a second though. And a stranger to pay in this carry for Hollywood Hammers. Currently Vainglory just clearing his back, so TSM are having to suffer at the moment, but FlashX is able to heal via his perk whenever he hooks a couple of targets, and Best Chuck's able to land a Helogenesis. FlashX gets a bit of extra healing.
Yeah, FlashX is definitely playing a dangerous game, but he seems more than confident in his ability to land hooks onto multiple targets quickly enough for that damage to transfer over and also heal him from what Best Chuck NA is outputting. That also gives some space for Vainglory to be able to farm up some of the jungle, get a little bit deeper into that build. He already has the tension bow, and now they're looking
look at this.
Chicken.
Vainglory straight on, just starting all over, just dead. That's a Solar Storm sniping him away. Chicken looked like he was the focus, but Vainglory comes in and just takes one away, and that will be a second onto Chicken as the smite comes through, and just 1, 2, 3. Chicken survives. Ooh, baby, I know how to count. I just proved it there.
It was definitely close. Vainglory might have gone a little bit more aggressive if they had possibly had Best Chuck with them. Best Chuck returned to the lane. Not that big a deal. You let that one kill get away from you as long as you keep up the pace. And Vainglory sneaking into that brush, getting that tension bow proc damage down on the starting lover and picking him off pretty much immediately. It was an interesting flank. I saw, it was a fight on two fronts. I wondered which target they were really going for, and I didn't think that Vainglory was going to have the damage to just remove starting all over from the map, but he does. And TSM there, despite that, a little bit of a debacle in the beginning of the game and getting a little bit too aggressive, they're doing fine in terms of getting their carries online, and items will start to flow in for the side of TSM. Question is whether or not members of Hollywood Hammers are ready to face this Churn Walker once the damage is really there for Vainglory and Best Chuck.
I love this Dragon's Eye purchase by Status. I assumed it would be a Shatter Glass just due to some of the chats I've had with the North American junglers and their preference of Shatter Glass into mages for the upright burst that it provides in the first couple of Winter Spires, but ultimately Status has recognized that if he's ever in a fight with a crew, he's going to be stacking so effectively on this Rhyme, and as soon as he gets 4 stacks on that Dragon's Eye, that's 4 seconds of combat, he's actually doing more damage than whether he had a Shadow Glass. Best Chuck is out of position, Fountain comes through, starting all over's not done though. Fountain will keep him alive. Something to keep an eye out. If you can count in your head whilst watching Status brawl it out, as soon as you get to 4 seconds of continuous fighting, he's going to be outputting more damage than if he went the Shadow Glass route.
Yeah, value of that damage stack up of Vainglory is here. The chains are starting to land for TSM.
1, 2, 3, stunned. Ooh, that might drop his stack. Status in trouble. It's starting all over, stunned as well. Great trespass. It's a 3-man, and now FlashX is going to pull them all back. Best Chuck does go down, but it's going to be a kill somehow returned on to Chicken via death. What a great stun coming out of FlashX.
Yeah, he constantly is landing chain after chain after chain, And Vonsy did a good job of positioning right to be able to put the pressure on the Status. They got down, those 2 stuns and forced Status to have to. He threw out the Valkyrie pretty early off that engagement. Yes, it hit Best Check and A, but that's really not where the value is going to be. They need to lock targets down so starting can land those glimmer shots through. And TSM come out ahead with a pretty good team fight. I wouldn't say that Hollywood Hammers is that much of a detriment. I just think that it was a slightly mispositioned team fight, and Status, he's gonna need a little bit more damage to get through because he has to deal with the fact that he's not that mobile of a hero. Vonsy is either gonna get the From Hell's Heart, and that's gonna be the stun. The Core Collapse could be the stun from Best Chuck and A, and Flash X is probably going to hook the Rhyme. It's very difficult for the Rhyme to get away from that pretty much guaranteed stun, so he has to output the damage faster, or they need to get a very fast and hard engagement with the Valkyrie.
Worth noting, Best Chuck's also going to Dragon's Eye of his own, looking to stack up in these long engagements. Is going to be a Solar Storm ripping through, starting all over Vonsy onto this Rhyme. That's a Trespass stunning him up. Vonsy going very low on the backline, but able to get a heal through from Flash X, and that keeps him nice and healthy. Now it is just the turret siege. Vonsy coming on in, starting all over. He just gets bursted down by that Tenjin Bow on the Cruel. Chicken will be fairly good to escape here with the Gauntlet in hand. Won't need to use it, TSM, to pop this turret down after the minion wave comes back to help them out. Perhaps not quite able to do it in one go. Chicken has to be careful. Doesn't want to lose his life here. Is chained up. Is just the turret focus, and maybe Flash X now turns on in. Vonsy comes in, but they're not able to take out Chicken.
Yeah, they need to let Best Chuck back. He's got decent chunk of gold that could possibly be his. No, he just picks up the Heavy Prism. Math is hard sometimes, especially when you're thinking about items being bought and sold, but he'll be close to that Broken Myth, so there'll be massive damage coming through onto the members of Hollywood Hammers. And Hollywood Hammers, they're still looking for that solid engagement. Starting all over, he's got the Sorrow Blade, he's working towards that Tyrant's Monocle, needs to get some of that crit into place. Status doesn't have his Broken Myth either, and it feels like the items are being slowed down from the side of Hollywood Hammers just because they're not getting enough gold. On the other side, Vonsy, he's working towards a Broken Myth, he's got himself a Poison Shiv, he's cutting down on what is likely to be the healing, pretty much coming up from one source.
He held hard onto Vonsy, starting all over. TSM looking to start up the team fight. Vonsy in the middle of it all. Great stun. Valkyrie, Best Chuck in trouble. Fountain to keep him alive, and now trying to reposition. Fountain will come out for Hollywood Hammers. Vonsy going to turn onto the Rhyme, reduce his damage output. Best Chuck just trying to land Helogenesis from the sideline. Doing a lot of damage via Flash X. Something to keep in mind. Look at those supernovas onto 2 members. Flash X may just lose his life nonetheless. Pops the boots, runs away. Oh, Winter Spire! Snipes on out. Status with those Dragon's Eye stacks really starting to hurt. It is going to be Hollywood Hammers finding that single kill. Flash X doing his best to try and keep them off his jungle. Can't quite do enough. That was a team fight just not going the way of TSM.
Yeah, a lot of that's on the back of Status getting very deep in the backline, putting huge pressure on the Best Chuck. Flash X, he's kind of playing this interesting positioning role where he's trying to maintain chains onto as many targets as possible. If he'd gone too far forward with Vonsy to try and bring us starting all over, Best Chuck would have died pretty much instantly. And so if Status can keep doing that every time Vonsy goes in for a hard engage, if he can catch Best Chuck out and either take away what is the major damage source that Flash X is trying to facilitate, or just, can get that additional pressure in there, that's a lot of damage on the Vonsy.
I just don't know how Hollywood Hammers allowed Vonsy to get that close to stunning starting all over. It was spotted out. Flash X called out a little bit. Valkyrie stuns him up. Vonsy in trouble as well. One shot. Blocked up by Flash X. Core Collapse not stopping up Status, but Status is in a bit of trouble, taken on out. TSM find that single kill onto the Rhyme. Vonsy just walked right past Status onto starting all over, and it was like Hollywood Hammers hadn't called it out. They're going to get a gold mine out at TSM due to that one pickup.
Yeah, going to start to build up some gold advantage. Good fight from TSM to be able to position it where they did. Flash X actually blocking out the one-shot, one-kill with his body, I think pretty much saved Vonsy. So has built up mass amounts of health, has got himself some armor, is really just getting in the face of the members of Hollywood Hammers. Hollywood Hammers, I think they need to be the ones playing proactively. I don't think that playing the counter engage is really going to work for them. That gives Flash X time to build up all of those chains. And it also makes it, it gives Best Chuck time to throw down Heliogenesis and set up his minefield. It gives him time to build up stacks. If you can hard engage things, Status will build up stacks pretty quickly just being in melee range. Take out one target and then Status is going to be where your continuous over the time damage goes. From Hell's Heart is out.
Is starting all over, able to escape for now. There's a broken myth for Status, watch out for the damage. Starting all over, pops a stun. That's Fonzie in so much trouble. Healing on up, but he will go down. Trespassed on up from Flash X, and now it's TSM running away from Status. Best Chuck NA on the backline as Status changes targets to keep those Dragon Ice stacks engaged. As starting all over charges on forward, takes a Heliogenesis to the face and reconsiders his life decisions. TSM may look to turn this around. Watch out for the damage Churnwalker outputs in this 1, 2 versus 3. Flash X missing his hooks. Has to be careful. Has to land them onto Status now. Best Chuck finds 1 kill. Looking for a second. Can he do it? Status so tanky. And that will be the perk from Rhyme to find the kill. Best Chuck taking a 1-shot will mean that he has to walk away from starting all over. Has a Solar Storm. It's gonna land. Ooh, but the reflex block good enough. Starting will be able to back.
Great game sense from starting all over, and that was a much better team fight from the side of Hollywood Hammers. They were kiting, they were maneuvering, they were watching Flash X, which really normally you'd spend a lot of your time looking for the engage from Von C, looking for the Heliogenesis and the core collapse from Best Chuck, but they're paying a lot of attention to where Flash X is positioning, and he missed maybe 4 or 5 hooks over the course of that team fight. Any of those lands, and it's the re-engage for the side of TSM. Because they don't, and because Hollywood Hammers is cognizant of it, they come out ahead in that one.
It's going to be TSM looking for another team fight with the Kraken spawning. If they can get a kill here, it would pretty much guarantee a Kraken. Pulling Status back on into it. Hell's Heart popped the wrong way. Fonzie not able to find a stun there. Normally you do that before you charge out of a bush. Fonzie, that was an accident from him. Bit of a misclick, and unfortunately that's pretty much cut TSM's engage in half down to nil. They're going to have to back off and look to buy up. That's a clockwork purchase for Best Chuck. This is a huge item spike. A lot of damage comes out. Look at how quickly those Heliogenesis go down. Every second, it's a supernova on the floor. That means that this Kraken just gets taken out with no time at all. That's insane. That is actually dumb.
Yeah, massive damage, but a poor back timing from the side of Hollywood Hammers. I think if they probably could have stuck around for that. They didn't take that much damage. They really just backed to reset themselves, get some extra flares, finish up items. The Double Tyrant's monocle is in from starting all over, and that lack of scouting, or at least lack of vision, is kind of cost them. So on TSM, they can set up the type of team fight that they want. They give Von C space to maneuver. They give Flash X time to land the chains. That's 2 chains in, and keep them connected. But I mean, the chains come out very, very quickly.
Flash X's rapper name, 3 chains on the Halcyon Fold, looking to drop his next mixtape. As the Kraken moves on in. Starting all over, Solar Storm will get blocked mostly by Status to keep him alive, but those Heliogenesis, look at how Best Chuck positions them just behind the turret. Means that the whole of Hollywood Hammers have to back off. They don't want to take damage from that Celeste. 2 turrets, good enough for the side of TSM, and they will allow the Kraken to walk to its icy death. Going to take away the rest of the jungle, though. Make sure that Hollywood Hammers have nothing to look forward to.
Yeah, and that, I mean, this has been a very even game. One bad back timing gives TSM, tower advantage. It gives them map control advantage. They're able to take out the choke point turret, which means the next possible Kraken could easily be the end for them with the increased health on Kraken in 2.9.1. So TSM, one advantageous timing lets them get ahead. Hollywood Hammers, they can easily still win this back, but they need to be proactive on those team fights. If they're waiting for TSM to misstep, yes, it kind of happened in that middle team fight where Flash X wasn't landing hooks, but you can't rely on that from the side of TSM. They're too good of a team for you to play that passively.
One of the issues that Starting All Over is facing is he's just going to actually get caught out, is he? Stuns up Fonzie. He needs the rest of his team to come in. That's a stun. He's stunned on up so much. Great gauntlet placements. That's a 3-man gauntlet from Chicken Can. Hollywood Hammers turn it around. Great active camo. Everything's great for Hollywood Hammers as Best Chuck and A struggling to deal with Status. It's Flash X onto Starting All Over. Going to take him on down by himself, but the kills have gone over and it's only Flash X left and made alive. Chicken 1, 2, 3. basically carrying that fight for his team there. They do lose starting in the end. What can they get for it is the question. FlashX basically doing a lot of damage
I don't know
to them
about this.
at the moment. Crystal Sentry's going down very low. Ooh, just about surviving for now as FlashX going to walk Hollywood Hammers out of his jungle. Chicken and Status, they're going to be in trouble. Trespass. Can FlashX 1v2 as Churnwalker? Is that even allowed? FlashX, this is disgusting. Don't let this happen. Gets the kill into Rhyme, but it is going to be a double whammy as FlashX eventually dies to the perk. That just shows the healing and damage that those chains can do.
I was concerned the moment that Hollywood Hammers decided to stick around and go for that Crystal Sentry, because Crystal Sentry does a lot of good damage, and you're usually thinking, okay, yeah, one of us can tank it, it'll be fine, but that damage is being spread via those chains. That's so much damage that comes through, and it's gonna cost Hollywood Hammers a lot of momentum. They get a great team fight, possibly could have turned that into a Kraken. How is FlashX gonna steal the Kraken from you? He's not. Churnwalker has no ability to steal that other than walking up with an auto attack. And so that, little bit of greed, which normally you would think would be, a reasonable play for you to take away that Crystal Sentry after winning a team fight there, is going to end up costing Hollywood Hammers a major objective. And they still have not taken the first turret of TSM.
It's any source of damage dealt via Fertility of Life, that is. There's the two chains, there's the Trespass. That's a starting block. Chicken laying down the gauntlet, trapping Best Chuck out of it. A second Trespass comes out, and that will be Best Chuck finding the kill. TSM chasing, two chains to pull back in. A core collapse this time missing, and Chicken will sacrifice himself for the greater good. Or does he? Never mind. That is a Vanguard of Dreams escaping TSM. But the Kraken will be taken. It is only a matter of time before TSM look to push on in and try and finish this series.
3 major stuns, and you can only deal with so many of them if you're starting all over. And he actually kind of got away from it. It was really just a good play Solar Storm from Best Chuck NA to finish that off. It's going to be the Kraken coming in for the side of Team Solo Mid. There's a little bit of gold on all these members, so maybe they top off some infusions, finish up some minor things, but this could easily be the end of the game and the series, and TSM taking this week.
All comes down to this. The Celeste versus Kestrel. Always been said that a Celeste deals pretty good into a Kestrel. Anytime she goes to throw a Glimmer Shot, you just basically drop a Supernova on her. Imagine a Supernova that hits even more because FlashX is playing Churnwalker. That's what we're dealing with today. Enemy scout traps being popped on up here, just trying to deal damage to TSM as they walk on into the base. The Kraken down to half HP and starting all over, moving on in. Valkyrie goes out, it's Status trapped up, Trespass to try and stun up, but Best Chuck might die, he does, and a Gauntlet traps up 2 for TSM. Vonsi trying to deal the damage, but he is able to take out starting all over, but will go down a double for Status. Crystal Sentry MVP getting involved in this one, and FlashX able to get it off the Kraken. First turret will fall, and that will be about it. Now it's FlashX with 3 chains trying to escape this one, but this time the Crystal Sentry is against him, and so it's going to be very difficult. He has Trespass available, going to use it for the stun, and now he can look to try and use the Torment to knock them back, but the problem is it pulls you towards Churnwalker, and really FlashX doesn't want to pull them towards him, so it is just going to be FlashX trying to buy time, and ends does fall down. An ace for Hollywood Hammers.
Yeah, great team fight from them to finally start to get a little bit more proactive. They did have the Crystal Miner there or the Crystal Sentry there to be able to, deal with that Kraken. So an extended team fight might have been dangerous for them, but they start to, pick up the pace a little bit. If they can continue to put pressure on Best Chuck NA, which is really what that team fight was about, Best Chuck NA was forced basically close to the enemy spawn, which would have been really dangerous if he had stepped in there. But they were able to kind of section him off from the rest of the team, and let Status do massive damage over the course of the team fight, build up those Dragon's Eye stacks. He's now got the Eve of Harvest, so going for that sustain route didn't actually end up getting the Shatter Glass. Doesn't really need the burst once to survive for longer periods of time, and Best Chuck NA isn't getting any stronger. The side of Team Solo Mid really isn't going to be racking up that much more damage, so if Hollywood Hammers can start to solidify these team fights, they could slowly start bringing things back, and they have now picked up their first major objective of the game in getting that first initial turret. Maybe this is the opening they needed.
Chicken was trying to find a Gauntlet over the wall. Is going to be forced to back on up as TSM going to be pushing down the lane. Can he find it now? No, he cannot. TSM playing so far away from where Chicken wants to jump on top of them. Starting over revealed by a Helogenesis. Status trying to get onto Best Chuck and A. That's going to be starting over stunned on up. On top of a Solar Storm. He's trying to run the Fountain to heal him up. Chicken with another gauntlet to be placed. But look at them. They're disengaging the fight. They've left Status for dead. The trespass blocked, but he's dead. He's shut down. And now it's a 3 versus 2 and TSM has said enough of your tomfoolery. They're pushing into the base.
TSM pretty much just drew Status around that fight. He looked for what would have been probably a pretty good flank, but again, the Valkyrie was used on Best Chuck and A. It was what we saw at the very start of this game, was the, these single target Valkyries not getting the value that Status needed, and now TSM will push in onto this turret. They should be able to bring it down. Great stun comes out from Flash X, starting all over. He can't do anything. He's going to get pulled back in again. Maybe he's buying a little bit of time, but Status is 22 seconds out. I think the minions are here, and I think TSM have got this game.
Yeah, it's going to be Helogenesis raining down onto the Vein Crystal, starting all over, trying to do his best. Maybe he can take down Von C and Flash X. No, gets stunned up, and that will be the end of the hope and dreams of Hollywood Hammers. TSM want to try and book their tickets to Singapore, and they've done themselves a solid by winning here in week 1 of Split 2 of the Autumn Vainglory 8 season. They're going to be getting some valuable points onto that board to try and solidify that hope and dreams of representing North America.
Great play from Team Solo Mid, and I think they've shown you gotta fear Flash X's Churnwalker.
His Churnwalker has been a opening statement of 2.9. Incredible play from him and his team, and congratulations to Team Solo Mid. It's time to round up the broadcast, so let's head on over back to the analyst desk.
Flash X throwing out his lassos and hooking him on down. He manages to take a 2-0 victory over Hammers alongside the rest of his teammates on TSM. A honestly not convincing game at all. That was about as back and forth as it could have got. Honestly, it didn't feel like either team had full control at any point until TSM actually finished the Vein Crystal.
Yeah, the last 2 fights were really the only time where you were like, okay, Team Limit's got control of this now. It was so back and forth. You didn't really know who was going to come out on top in these fights. It all came down to positioning. And this is what we love to see, is games that are, it's just purely execution. It's not one team winning or losing in the draft. It's not one team just having, really poor positioning throughout the game, getting snowballed like crazy. It was just all team fight execution, and each individual team fight could have gone either way.
I mean, it's definitely a lot about the execution, but I would beg to differ. I think it's the drafts. TSM in both games had drafts and compositions that were a lot stronger later on in the game, and because the games were going so even for such a long period, it was about getting to those items at the very end, and TSM being able to clutch the series with their late game compositions that worked better for them.
Yeah, I think what Bacon was trying to say was that both teams had a good composition. Both of them could have won with their composition. But as you rightly say, the TSM composition, it wanted that late game, and they ended up getting to that late game. Now, let's have a look at what happened right at the start of the game, because these teams came out swinging.
Yeah, they absolutely did. Right off the bat, you see 3 minutes, already 4 kills on the board, and looking for more. Team Solomid going so aggressive, trying to make this later game composition work in the early game, because they knew that Rhyme Kestrel were going to be able to scale up. Like, they do scale extremely well as well. So it was just the back and forth, both teams overextending a little bit too.
Now, this next clip that I want to show you guys, I want to show you guys at home as well. I think you already know which one it's going to be. This is Flash X on Churnwalker, denying basically anything he wants. Churnwalker and Crystal Sentry, that's a pretty good duo.
Name a more iconic duo, I'll wait.
It's definitely a pretty good duo because of the fact that that damage that's hitting a single target is now hitting actually both targets because of the damage sharing that comes out of Churnwalker's passive futility of life. And at the end here, he manages to get the kill, but does die to the chilling wind, or the damage over time coming from Rhyme off of his basic attacks.
And the other thing is the Vanguard is the only reason why Flash X doesn't get a double kill there. Vanguard was able to keep this Rhyme alive for so long because it was just a Churnwalker that was going after them, but that was so close to Flash X just making this massive double kill play potentially.
It could have been amazing if he just managed to finish off that last kill. Didn't quite land it, but let's take a look on into our next replay, as well as this is where the fight started to get really messy.
And this is when the team fights are kind of going in the favor of TSM because of the fact they have been able to scale. They got all the items that they wanted, but bad positioning from Chuck at the beginning of the team fight made him get damaged, or made him take a lot of damage that he did not want to take, especially coming from the Rhyme. And then Hammers did a great job of closing the gap onto the best Chuck, and the fact that they were fighting in their base allowed them to just corner TSM and not let TSM kite away.
Another key to that was just Status and Chicken soaking up almost the entirety of that Solar Storm, making sure that that damage didn't go through onto starting all over, so he's able to stay alive a little bit longer. And you'll see, that was the difference. Is we're going to get a look at the final fight of the game as well, and you'll see the Solar Storm goes on the starting all over and does a ton of damage, but it was the positioning in the final fight that I really want to talk about.
And we can take a look at that fight now as well. So we'll bring that up on the screen and we can take a look into the minor details of that fight as TSM finish things off.
And again, they go in, they're starting all over, does get himself into a position where he gets stunned by the From Hell's Heart. There goes the Soul Storm, and now Status is completely split from the team. Beautiful decision for all but the side of Team Solar Mid. They immediately just, once the gauntlet comes out, they back off and say, okay, you guys are far enough away now. We have Status isolated. We can take him down. And that was how they were able to take that final fight to be able to push in to end the game. Because again, Hammers were fighting exceptionally well, even up until that last point.
And the thing that you have to realize is Rhyme can't take down Celeste on his own, especially if TSM end up pulling back. Like he said, Tasty Bacon to defend him. At the end, they get the kill on Rhyme. They push in, and at this point, it's just cleanup. Kestrel and Arden can't hold off 2v3 on their own, especially with the Churn Walker trespass. Just he constantly kept on locking them down for Celeste and Cruel to get damage. And then once they killed Arden, they switched their target focus to the objective, finishing the turret, and then the Vein Crystal afterwards. It really was the fact that TSM's composition still was a lot stronger late game. So when you keep going even and you get to that point, it just ends up working in their favor.
Absolutely. Well, TSM are going to be our victors for this week of the Vainglory8, and we have them standing by on Skype as well. So first of all, congratulations on your victory. Congratulations on being basically the only team in the Vainglory8 that's willing to use this Churn Walker to effect.
Thank you. We definitely appreciate it. I would be very, very surprised if you didn't see a massive uptick in the amount of Churn Walker being played next weekend, but only time will tell.
Yeah, I'm fully expecting a lot more Churn Walker to be hitting our screens over the course of the next few weeks. But I have to ask you, Flash, we've seen a whole host of picks across the course of this week. What is it that you feel are the strongest picks right now in the meta? Obviously, you guys are favoring Churn Walker. Obviously, there's Blackfeather, but what else is there that's really standing out?
Churnwalker, Blackfeather, Rhyme, Kroll. I mean, we saw a bunch of Rhyme and Kroll bans and picks. I think in almost every single series, definitely in North America, if I'm not mistaken. Arden, super strong. Lyra, super strong. I actually think that the Ozo that Hammers played that wasn't even something that we even experimented with at all. So how strong Ozo was definitely surprising. Not really sure if that's necessarily just a situational type thing, but yeah, the meta super fun right now.
The meta is super fun. It's very, very open right now. And Flash, I gotta ask, you guys won a weekend right now. I'm sure you're looking to replicate it going on to the next upcoming weeks. But who do you expect is going to be able to fight against you the hardest, and who's going to be able to be the toughest opponent to overcome?
I would probably give that title to Rogue. I mean, we were able to beat Rogue obviously on Saturday, but it was a back and forth bloodbath. I think that was our only 2-1 series, if I'm not mistaken. And I know with especially how close they are in VG8 points and chasing that world spot, they're all very hungry individuals, and I know that they're going to be pushing us to our limits.
All right, well, as we head towards week number 5 coming on through in this season, you guys are looking fantastic. We've already discussed who are going to be your contenders. I have to ask, how soon do you think the meta is going to settle down? Do you think that throughout the rest of the season, we're just going to see all of these picks still viable, or do you feel like the meta will gradually be solved?
This actually might be a patch where I think each and every team is just going to develop kind of their own meta, and I don't think they will necessarily get just a repeating pattern. There's definitely enough variety and enough picks that are just open, like Iraqi was saying, to make a lot of different strategies viable and possible. That being said, I think a lot of it kind of circulates around that rhyme and that crawl. I thought that the weapon power adagio that Nova pulled out was actually pretty strong. But yeah, this might be a patch where we might not see a definitive meta. But that being said, if other teams do start picking up the Churn Walker, that could potentially shake things up a bit.
We'll have to see as it goes on. I thought you might have that kind of answer because there's been a lot that looks very strong. Thank you very much for joining us, FlashX, and congratulations on your victory here today. Congratulations to the rest of TSM as well. A 2-0 victory in the finals means they are now sitting in a very comfortable position in our standings. But to round out that series, we have our MVP as well. On the back of that series, the MVP is going to be Von C. In the jungle, he did a phenomenal job, especially in game number 1, but even in game number 2 as well. Constantly putting on pressure, constantly being a threat.
Yeah, and in game number 1, especially with this alpha, was just incredible. The aggressive play from him was so strong. And then in game number 2, you know, it wasn't as pronounced because it was this curl pick, but did end up having that big pick with the From Hell's Heart on Starting All Over that kind of set in motion that final team fight of the game for them. So definitely very strong play and crucial to Team Solomid's success.
Indeed, I mean, whenever we look at Von C, whenever we look at TSM, we question how Von C's performance is going to be because he is the most inconsistent player on their team just because the other two are so consistent with Chuck and FlashX. So he is stepping it up. He's playing more with his team, not over-aggressing too much, not giving away leads and not giving away gold to the opponents. So doing a great job, Von C, so far, and it's helping TSM to be able to